Hello Internet friends, and welcome to the Legion Beta Balanced Druid First Look Summary Lunar Boogaloo. Hello. So I just got done testing Balanced Druid for about 3 hours, just about. That's about average what we put into each of the specs. And I want to go over some animations with you. I mean, not a lot has changed specifically. I'll cast some spells as I go over my bug report, which I found to be things that are not currently working. So, the Owlkin Frenzy passive, which grants you when taking physical damage, normally I guess melee attacks in sort of a PvP-ish sort of way, you will have a chance to cast spells instantly. This is now rolled into the Moonkin form tooltip, which is right here. I could not find it as a passive ability listed. It wasn't actually here, so it is actually rolled into your Moonkin form. But it still exists in case you were curious and looking for where is my Moonkin Frenzy. There it is, right there. So I'm showing off Stellar Flare right now versus this is Lunar Strike, which is your new Starfire. And then here is Solar Wrath, which is still just Wrath. I think it's the same exact thing as it is in the game currently. And then here is Sunfire and Moonfire. Moonfire top is the moon up there. And here is Starfall. I don't think it is changed at all. I think it still looks interesting. You'll notice that it is a drop reticle circle now. It is not a auto cast around the Druid. So it's more control. And there are some synergies with talents later on therein. And here is Star Surge. The same, I do believe. It still does the little effect when it hits the target and the swooshy swooshies. So there is that. What else we found? During your initial nightmare dream stuff to get to your class hall, follow and keep your Romulus once you've entered the dream is all just spam. Everyone continuously emotes and talks to you over and over and over and over and over again during all of that. So please be careful of that. Hopefully that'll get bugged, of course. But if you're testing it right now, confirm with me that it is all just spam, 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 spam. And Wild Charge, which I will talent to real quick. The tooltip is currently not working properly with Moonkin. It will say that, where is it? Right here. It'll say that you fly to a nearby ally's position, but that's actually the thing you do outside of combat, and outside of Moonkin form, which is the fly to ally's position here. Not a big deal. Everything else does work, like the cheetah form, when you go Wild Charge, leap forward 20 yards, or you go in kitty cat form and you go behind the enemy, dazing them for 3 seconds, or you go into bear charge and you charge them and you immobilize them for 4. But the Moonkin one is currently not correctly, so it should be a bound backwards. It, however, does work. I do believe it does work still. Where's the combat? Let me get into combat real quick here. And so it still makes you bounce backwards. Hopefully they add the flap animation, because obviously that should be there. So big things I have written down here for my Moonkin Druid stuff, which I got to get through here in about 8-9 minutes or so, because a lot to talk about. It's a builder spender class now. You'll notice there is no balance bar. No more eclipse bar. So you single target build with Wrath and Lunar Strike. Wrath is a shorter cast time, generates 9 lunar power per strike by default, which I'll bring up the tooltips here because they don't pop up normally. So the 9 runic, right, runic. Did I say runic? I just was doing Death Knight stuff. So astral power generates 9 astral power per Solar Wrath, and in the Star Surge, where is it? Over here. Oh my goodness. And Lunar Strike is 15 astral power per gain, obviously longer cast time, but it does have the built-in cleave effect. So be mindful that the more or less the basis of this is going to be like, are you AoEing, cleaving, or single targeting? That sort of rounds you out with if you're casting Wrath or Lunar Strike, which is not incredibly important, honestly. It is, sorry for the music, it freaked out there for a moment. But that is the long and short of it. Granted, though, now that you are Builder Spender, you are using Star Surge just to spend your astral power. And what Star Surge gives you is two stacks, 1 stack of each Solar Empowerment and Lunar Empowerment. So you'll see here, bloop, you have a damage increase on your next Wrath and a damage increase on your next Lunar Strike. So you kind of use them in tandem. So you'll most likely be going back and forth with your spells anyway, instead of going only 2 spells, only 1 spell, only 2 spells, only 1 spell, kind of back and forth kind of deal between Moonfire, Starfire, and well, as it is currently. But Sunfire still exists, as well as Moonfire, of course, so you will be keeping these both up all the time. Moonfire lasts longer and does more damage over the duration, and strikes a little bit harder when you spam it. 45-yard range, of course, is indicated by your Astral Influence passive. And Sunfire is baseline as well, and does the initial damage as well as the damage over time effect in a shorter duration, 14 seconds instead of 18, but it does, of course, still cleave. So it spreads to all targets within the 5-yard radii, whereas Moonfire does not, and you have to hit it over and over and over again, which is fine. You are seeing the first talent I'm testing out right now. It's called Shooting Stars, which for multi-targeting, I almost wonder if it's like wicked overpowered, because it just gives you way too much astral power, and you can overlay Starfalls. You can have 2 overlaid at the same time, which I don't know if it's that intended or not. It's cool, don't get me wrong. You won't see 2 Starfall buffs, but we have confirmed that in the last 2 or 3 seconds when you recast a new one, it does stack. So you'll actually get double benefit from having 2 Starfalls in the same location at once. Warrior of Loon is your other option in the new 15 tier, which is you get 2 Lunar Strikes with no cast time. It's kind of like Ice Flows for mages, which if it actually shows on my bars, which it might not because there's a lot of weird buggy stuff right now with the beta. So boom and boom. 2 instant free cast spells. I guess they're not free, but mana is not really a big deal for Druid. Like, your spells don't cost mana. So, like, Star Surge has no mana cost, Stellar Flare, no mana cost, Sunfire, no mana cost, right? Mana is, I don't know if it's much of a thing anymore for balanced Druids. You kind of just have mana for your off healing, which it costs mana, but I don't really know if it'll really cost you mana. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to ever heal or spam stuff with mana that's not going to matter too much for you. So, I don't know. Mana is kind of a weird bar to still have for balanced Druids, in my opinion, but we'll see. And Firelord, which was heavily nerfed, I've been told, but right now it's only a 10% haste for your empowered casts, which still kind of works out well for like single target damage, because you're not going to gain as much from Shooting Stars. Warrior of Loon will be good for like burst, putting more spells in your if you're running both of your cooldowns, both Incarnation and right now I have Collapsing Star on right now to show you something, but I don't know if Warrior seems fun for movement, but I don't know if it'll be good for single target or not. Burst, possibly, but you'll have to figure that out in the end. Firelord seems fine. It might need a little bit of a buff again, because it was 50% on live, I'm currently being told, but 10% right now is a pretty big nerf in the change. Renewal is now in your movement tree, so you have to decide between Renewal or Displacer Beast or Wild Charge. I'm not a Druid, I don't know. I mean, depending on how you want to move around, Displacer Beast is really good. Renewal is also pretty good, because if you take next tier, which is your newest, biggest changes, craziness, you can pick an affinity. And you pick a Feral, Guardian, or Restoration affinity, right? You get a passive, either Ysera's Gift, Thick High, which reduces all damage taken by 10%, or the Feral Swiftness passive, which increases your movement speed. Then you get to go into Kitty Cat form, Bear form, or you just gain, what I have right now, Rejuvenation, Swift Mend, and Regrowth on my bars, which Regrowth takes you out of Balance form, of Moonkin form. Swift Mend will also take you out, but Rejuvenation will not. And Healing Touch is baseline, as you see here, and you can cast Healing Touch while in a Moonkin form. But again, mana regen is so not of an issue. I don't know if it really even matters in combat. Can I even drain my mana? I don't even know if I can even drain my mana. I know I'm clicking a lot of spells right now because this is beta. I'm not set up for this normally, but kind of can, but you're always going to be full mana, it seems. I don't know. These are pretty powerful. Honestly, like, you can take Renewal, and you can, like, Regrowth, Swift Mend, renew yourself to, like, full health. Like, in, like, 2 GCDs, basically, because Swift Mend's off it, because you can tag it to another one. It seems pretty good. Guardian Affinity might be pretty powerful, too. Iron Fur is only an armor increase, not a damage reduction, but the 10% less damage taken all the time is pretty powerful. Maybe. Feral Affinity for movement speed, and then Cat Form stuff. PvP, maybe? I don't know. Mighty Bash gets moved into with Mass Entanglement and Typhoon, so your knockback looks the same, but if you want to knockback or AoE root or stun something, one target stun. Soul of the Forest gets pushed down here with Incarnation and Stellar Flare. This, I'm not even going to talk about much because I don't know the math behind it, but Stellar Flare being in this tier with your other cooldown or your Soul of the Forest passive is very interesting to me. I don't know how it's going to work out. This is a pretty big choice, because you can go like quad dot spec with Collapsing Star, maybe. You can't do empowered stellar flares, but you can still do 4 dots on a target. If that's powerful or not, I have no idea. Cross-dotting with stellar flare might be very possible with shooting stars and keeping a bunch of empowered stellar flares all over the place, because you'll have so many options. The passives, again, going back to Star Surge, is that it increases the damage of your next Lunar Strike or Solar Wrath, and you can have it to 3. Or, if you Starfall for 60 Astral Power, your enemies within your Starfall will take additional damage on the same percentage based on your mastery from your Moonfire and Sunfire effects. So obviously the synergy between AoE and Cleave, or single target and burst between Star Surge and Starfall. Force of Nature feels like, I don't know, it summons 3 treants that taunt stuff and smack things in 15-second for 22-minute cooldown. They don't cast Wrath anymore. They should be little baby boomkins, in my opinion. Stellar Drift is pretty neat. If it actually works here, I do believe it clicked on right there because I went out of my form. So Stellar Drift is when it increases the radius of Starfall by 30%, the damage it deals by 20%, and when you're inside it, you can cast while moving. So here is just the damage. The radius is huge, and you can cast while moving as long as the duration of it is going. So that's pretty neat. It helps you not only AoE and Cleave, but also gives you a little bit of movement incentive there. I don't know how well it will be used. Obviously, the increased radius is kind of cool for AoEing a larger space. It's kind of a nice thing. But maybe for PvP, you can drop a thing on you and get the rogue out of stealth or whatever. But the damage dealt is the big component. Obviously, the 20% extra damage dealt is pretty huge. And comparing it to Force of Nature or Nature's Balance, which is back, which is your Lunar Strikes extend the duration of Moonfire, and your Solar Wraths increase the duration of your Sunfire. This is neat. I don't know if on single target this is better than Force of Nature. I'm assuming it will be for keeping up your Moonfire and Sunfire for basically forever. I'm not a Druid. Much more better and adept Druid might be able to find out that Nature's Balance is very powerful for keeping your dots up all the way. Your new benefits here, Astral Communion is a 1-minute cooldown that just gives you 75 Astral Power. There's no currently animation for it. It just, like, happens. So, it's just like Thistle Tea for rogues. Or old school Thistle Tea. It doesn't exist anymore, I don't think, but Astral Power on the click. Maybe help the pull. Maybe help burst a little better, because you can... With this, you can actually stack up your 3 stacks of Lunar and Solar Empowerment really quickly, because you can only do 40 and 40 is 80. You have 20 floating. You can Astral Communion way back up there, drop another Star Surge, right? You have your 3 stacks, and then you can go to town with both 3 empowered Wraths and Strikes. But you have to make sure that you don't overcap your secondary resource, which is your Lunar and Solar Empowerments, which may also help for having Stellar Flare, because you can then dunk the entire dot, because it uses 1 of each charge. Collapsing Star is interesting. It is basically a dot version of Breath of Sindragosa for Death Knights. I don't know how to best make use of this. It is an initial huge damage attack, and then a dot that will last forever if you can keep feeding it Astral Power. 2-minute cooldown. Replaces Celestial Alignment, however. You do not get your normal, as you see on my bars and my spellbook. You don't have Celestial Alignment. It's gone. Because it replaces it, right? You don't get the alignment buff, you get Collapsing Star as your big cooldown. So with this, I don't think you would ever want to use your empowerment windows. You want to keep the Collapsing Star buff up all the time. I think it really synergizes well with Shooting Stars and multi-targeting. People were asking me if I'll be able to get 2 Collapsing Star buffs up. Like, if you keep one for 2 minutes, and then you place another one, I don't know. Maybe. I doubt it. There's not enough targets to keep that up. Shooting Star seems like it's balanced around making Collapsing Star happen. It's crazy, though. And then Blessing of the Ancients, which I think is pretty freaking cool, personally. This, I was testing with it. It's insane. You get so much Astral Power with the Blessing of Anshe as the passive that gives you Astral Power while moving. Yes, it works if you change different forms as long as you're in combat. It goes with haste, it seems. It'll stay up while you're hasted. Shooting Stars plus this is insane. The Blessing of Elune, which is the side of the Moon version, which is the direct damage single target, which increases the Wrath gain and Lunar Strike gain by 50% for Astral Power. So you can switch with it. It is off the GCD. You can just become the giant rave disco chicken. I'm assuming that no one else in your group would actually see this. Maybe. But I think this is a pretty great talent. to work on with movement and AoE, using Anshe and a Loon for turreting and standing still. But that's it for this preview. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed these little previews, hit that like button. It helps me out a great deal. Maybe also check out my Patreon page and see what I have going over there to see if you can help FinalBossTV grow and keep me doing what I'm doing here. I'll be back with more previews in the future. Of course, Balanced Druid will get a artifact preview later, and then a second look months from now when we have everything unlocked, maybe artifacts with full power, and then we'll check out how the Boom Chicken will fully come to fruition. But thank you all so much. I will see you on the live stream. Info is down below. Boomkin looks pretty cool. I'll see you all later.